So, hello, my people. Welcome to Definitely Tumi. Yeah. So, you know, this one is a tough, recording for me, and I'm gonna get into it. But for those of you that are new, my name is Tumi. Running, for Definitely Tumi. This channel is more about lifestyle and travel, but more so also about, on Sundays we have what we call Definitely Hot Tea, where we delve into Black women entrepreneurships around the world and we celebrate them. So if you're new, welcome to my usual suspect. I welcome you as well. Yeah, so this was a stop and go in terms of recording because, as I said, this is such an emotional recording for me. Yeah. So I want to talk to you, for a moment uh, about South Africa and where we are right now, my country. And then I'll also give you a background of who I am for those of you that I knew. It's taking me time to make this video. In fact, I've stopped recording, more times than I can count because I knew that no matter what I said, someone would misunderstand it. Someone would think I'm taking sides, but this isn't really about taking sides. This is more about a personal reaction as someone whose life, marriage, and family existence across borders. I am South African. I am married to a Nigerian man. I am raising a child whose parents is South African and Nigerian. I have lived in South Africa, in the United States, and now, we live in the United Kingdom as an immigrant myself. So when conversations about migration, identity and xenophobia, belonging happen, they're not just stories on the news to me. They are deeply personal. And I, after watching the World Cup, South African World Cup against Mexico past Thursday. In fact, I did a video about that. I was in the train from London and seeing so many Africans openly supporting Mexico instead of South Africa. I realized that maybe it's time we had an honest conversation. And I've seen videos, I've seen recordings of, fellow South Africans trying to explain the situation. So I don't want to, I'm not a politician. I'm not a social media warrior, but as ordinary people need to understand one another. Before I can continue, I want to be very clear. This video is not intended to attack South Africa. In fact, I love South Africa and South Africans. It is not intended to attack Nigerians or any other African nationality either. These are simple, personal. These are simply personal reflection based on my own life experiences. And I know, there are many of different people have different perspectives, and I respect that. I only ask that if you choose to leave a comment, you do so respectfully, because behind this conversation are real families, real friendships, and real lives. Like I said, this is my life as well. So a few days ago, as I said, I was in the train. I watched South Africa play Mexico. And like many South Africans, I wanted Bafana Bafana to do well. But as I watched the game and followed the conversations online, I noticed something that honestly didn't surprise me. So many Africans from different countries across the continent rather, were openly supporting Mexico. Some people were shocked by that. Some people were angry. But if I'm honest, I wasn't surprised at all because I don't think this was really about football or soccer. I think it was about emotion. I think this was about more about memories. I think it was about years of painful stories and experiences connected to xenophobia and, feeling unwelcome. For some people, supporting Mexico wasn't necessarily about loving Mexico. It is a way of experience or expressing their disappointment, hurt, or frustration. Whether we agree with that or not, I think we need to understand where those feelings come from. Yeah. Life has given me a perspective that I never expected to have. I have lived in South Africa, I've lived in the US, and now, like I said, I live in the UK. And every place I've lived in has taught me something about what it means to belong. I've experienced what it feels like for people to hear your accent before they hear your story. I've experienced filling out immigration forms, worrying about visas, building friendships from scratch. And you've seen it on my videos in this channel. And, trying to understand that culture isn't the culture that's even not even your own. I've experienced missing home, missing family, missing food, even missing my own house, missing the little things, you don't realize matter until they're gone. So living abroad changes you. It teaches you humanity. It teaches you empathy, because one day you wake up and realize that you are a foreigner. You are the immigrant. You are the person trying to fit in. And I want to say something that I know may not be popular with everyone. I do believe that when we move to another country, we are guests. We should respect the laws. We should rather contribute to, positively to the society. We should appreciate the opportunities that the country gives us. And every nation has the right to manage its borders and make decisions about immigration, yeah? I believe that. I also believe that there is a humane way to do it. There is a difference between discussing immigration policies and, forgetting the humanity of immigrants, because behind every immigrant or migrant story, there is that story, first of all. A mother trying to provide for her children, a father working to build a future, a student chasing education, a family escaping hardship, a young person simply looking for an opportunity they couldn't find at home. I've lived enough of those journeys myself to know that very few people leave home because they want to. Most people leave because they feel they just have to. At the same time, I think it's important to acknowledge the reality that many South Africans live with every day: unemployment, poverty, crime, economic inequality, frustration. So when people feel forgotten or left behind, it becomes easy to look for someone to blame. And all over the world, immigrants often become the target. We've seen it. We've seen in Belfast recently. We've seen it. I had a guy knock on my door late 3 a.m. The other day. I'll do a video about that. So we're seeing these conversations happen in the UK. We've seen them in the United States, and we see them also in South Africa too. But I don't believe that ordinary immigrants created all of these problems, and I don't believe that ordinary South Africans are bad people either. The truth is much more complicated. For me, this conversation is impossible to separate from my own family. My husband is Nigerian and I'm South African. My child is both. So when I look at my child, I don't see borders, I don't see passport, I don't see us and them. I simply see someone who belongs to two beautiful cultures. Sometimes I wonder what kind of Africa my child will grow up believing in. Will he feel that they have to choose between one side of his family and the other? Will he ever feel fully accepted in both places? Or will he inherit divisions that may, and that will be a generational thing that he never manages to heal. As a mother, those are different questions because for me, this isn't politics. This is home. So, what does it mean that many Africans supported Mexico over South Africa? I don't think that it means Africans hate South Africa. I don't think that it means they wanted South Africa to fail. I think it means there's a hurt that still exists. It means that for some people, the dream of African unity has been shaken. It means relationships need to be rebuilt. And maybe this World Cup moment was simply a mirror reflecting conversations that many of us have avoided for too long. Because if people who should feel connected no longer feel connected, then perhaps we need to ask ourselves why. So, living in America and now in Britain has also shown me that immigration is not uniquely South African issue. Countries all over the world are asking difficult questions. How do we secure our borders? How do we protect jobs and public services? How do we integrate newcomers into the society? Those are fair questions. But another question is just as important. How do we answer those questions without losing our humanity? How do we remember that migrants are not statistics or headlines? They're mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, neighbors, classmates, and colleagues. So in my case, they're also my husband and my child. Still, I still believe in the idea of Africa, where people can travel, trade, work, and build relationships across borders without fear. I still believe in Ubuntu, hello Mandela, a beautiful Southern philosophy that says, I am because we are. Ubuntu doesn't mean, ignoring the real challenges across the countries. It doesn't mean pretending that immigration policies don't even exist. It means recognizing that our shared humanity matters too, because one day the person we call a foreigner might become our friend, they might become our neighbor, they might become part of our family. Goodness, for me, they're already that. So it took me a long time to make this video because those conversations are deeply, deeply personal. I have family in South Africa, I have a family in Nigeria, and now I'm building a life in the United Kingdom. I've lived in 3 countries, and each one that has taught me something different about identity, belonging, and home. What I've learned is this: you can believe that countries have the right to protect their borders and still believe that immigrants deserve dignity. You can love your country deeply without hating people who come from somewhere else. And you can acknowledge pain and frustration without allowing them to turn into hatred. So when I watched South Africa play Mexico and saw many Africans support the other side, I wasn't angry. I was sad because it made me wonder whether somewhere along the way we stopped seeing each other as neighbors and started seeing each other as competitors. Maybe the biggest lesson from this World Cup moment isn't about, football at all. Maybe it is a reminder that trust, respect, and humanity are things we have to keep building every single day. Because if my life has taught me anything, it's this. I've lived in 3 countries, I've loved people from different cultures, and I've built a family across borders, and I've realized that our passports may tell us where we come from, but they should never determine how much humanity we owe one another. So, thank you for listening. If you ever lived in, abroad or experienced life as an immigrant, I'd, generally love to hear from your story. Please share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep this conversation respectful, yeah? And compassionate. Take care of yourself, my people, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.